And so when I came to the US, I was like, wow, like people actually own houses. That's pretty cool. So, first time just living in one, I was just amazed. I couldn't believe that that's an actual thing. But, I was 16 at the time. It took me quite a while, as you can see there, from 2005 till 2017 to buy my first property. One of the biggest things is I was kind of on this like no debt journey. I really thought that was terrible. That's like one of those things that even, especially when you grow up in Germany, that's one of the kind of main things. We don't really use credit cards much. And I don't know how many know Dave Ramsey, but he's the no debt king. And he's got a lot of good ideas, but when it comes to like building long-term wealth, and if you use debt smart, it's not the greatest, right? Like, it applies to a lot of parts of a lot of Americans, but I think if you really kind of can use leverage in a good way, debt can be your friend. So, I ended up buying my first home in 2017, and then I wanted to buy a investment property in Seattle. I was like, wow, this shit is expensive. I don't know if I can swear here, but
you can swear here.
Okay.
We're all family.
So it's pretty expensive, right? And I was like, man, I can't afford this, honestly. And so I started investing out of state. Bought a couple properties to just kind of, cheaper ones on the East Coast where I was living at first. But I wish that somebody would have told me about house hacking back then, because that's honestly what I would have done. So I wish I would have been here at this kind of presentation when I was 25, and then I would have started house hacking. But I didn't know. So I had no idea. Nobody told me, and I didn't find anybody that knew about it. So, but it is the way to go, in my opinion. So finally, after buying those few properties in 2020, I was kind of ready to house hack. Found a property, me and him found a property, it was awesome, 430, got it under contract, and then it fell through simply because of one of my other properties. It was a terrible lender, honestly, and then there was a routing number issue. It was not, yes, not Kara. So it ended up not working out for me, and I had to wait. And I bring this up because, again, you're gonna face some challenges as you go through some of these, right? It's not gonna go straight forward. Sometimes it seems that way. You talk to other investors, and it just seems like they're just having like one path up, right? And there's no ups and downs. There's ups and downs. So the first house hack in Tequila in 2021, which is what we're gonna talk a little bit more in detail. And then I got my real estate license. And why did I get it? Because I had a lot of friends that were starting to kind of ask about what I'm doing. I was really curious about it. And I really wanted to help people, honestly, kind of do the same thing. Because in my opinion, it is the best way for y'all to build wealth and to grow. And so I was like, hey, I'm gonna get my license, and even though I'm like at Amazon and I got a bunch of stuff to do, I'm gonna put in the work and still help people. And then I got my second house hack just last year in Ballard. We can talk about it after if y'all want, but definitely won't have time to dive into that one as well. So here we go. Some of these faces are familiar. They're in the room. So some of the people that so far I've worked with, we always become friends. So if you work with me, we'll probably become friends. We don't have to, but usually it usually happens this way. And so just a quick summary. So for myself, I own 5 properties, 19 doors across Washington, New York, and Germany. Where again, I grew up, brokered about $3 million in real estate as an agent. I'm one of the founding members of the real estate at Amazon. Any Amazon people here? All right, there's a few. So you probably know me. He definitely knows me. He's also on the team. Yeah, so that's a group. Again, this was like a passion project to really kind of get the word out, to really help people, inspire people. And there's just a ton of smart people on that team, and that we get. So definitely one of those passion things. As our team, we own about 20 properties, brokered $28 million across 44 transactions last year. So mainly putting this on here to show y'all, the cool thing is we don't just talk about it, we actually do it, right? So you're gonna see a lot of agents, a lot of people you talk to, and they don't know about any of this stuff. Like, they just don't do it. I don't know why, but we actually do it. So anyone you talk to, you know, Michael, Brad, Dan, anyone, we're all doing these things. We're kind of walking the walk, right? All right, so before we go into the house hack deep dive, as I mentioned, mindset, in my opinion, is it's a big thing because you're gonna face challenges throughout your journey, okay? So one of the things is that I always believe in is don't count on motivation, take consistent action, right? It's January, everybody's like, hey, it's a new year, like, let's go buy a house hack. And then you wake up tomorrow, you're like, nah, you know, maybe I don't want to do it. Or you're just like, you know, it's too much money, or interest rates are too high, or whatever it is, right? But it can work if you take consistent action. Be different than everybody else, because you're going to be. Once you buy a couple of properties or you're house hacking, people are going to look at you like, what's wrong with you? They're like, there's something, like, you own 2 houses? You own 3 houses? You know, like, they're just like, what is going on? So you're going to be weird if you're at parties and you talk about it. You're going to be looked at like, this guy is like, or they think you're like super wealthy. Like, I think you're just like the wealthiest person around, but you don't have to be, as we'll go over. But you'll be different than most people. Embrace change. So you're gonna have to step out of your comfort zone a little bit if you wanna house hack and make this successful. Be around people that inspire you. So again, that's why I joined the team. That's why hopefully y'all are here. You want to learn from us, from each other, and be inspired by others. And then dreams without goals are just dreams. Write them down. So I'm big believer in that. I always write down kind of goals I have for the new year. I look at them all the time. You got to get yourself kind of in that mindset. These are some of us. I think there's Phil. Oh, he's over there. And so I'm big into polar plunging.
You did, yeah.
So that might also be a thing. If you work with me or the team, you're gonna have to jump in the water. And then I put this on. I'm doing this current challenge, just a couple like different pillars you have to hit, and this is just again something that for myself I do to be more consistent with things, and really to kind of like you train yourself to be able to do these things, so then it translates into challenges that come up with house hacking. So you like get back to real estate. Oh, and I really love this quote real quick here. So people overestimate what they can get done in a year, but underestimate what they can get done in a decade. I think it's a Tony Robbins quote. I'm not sure, but this really applies to like real estate wealth, right? Because you're gonna be like, hey, I can do this in a year. I'm gonna get financially independent. I'm gonna find a property that cash flows like $3,000 a month, and I'll be done. Unlikely, right? But in a decade, in 10 years, like if everyone here is like, hey, I have 10 years to be financially independent, to build wealth, you can do it, for sure. Like everybody. All right, so what is house hacking? So lots of different definitions. I put here the decision to rent out a portion of your property in order to offset the cost of home ownership. So lots of different options when it comes to house hacking. Put them up there, renting out extra bedroom, in-law suite, like the mother-in-law. You can buy a multifamily, rent out your yard, garage space. I need a quick drink. Bring it up there. Yeah. So at its core, that's kind of like how we define and look at house hacking. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some income generating strategies. These are some, most of them I've used, not all of them, but Airbnb, I'm sure y'all are familiar. I'm currently using Airbnb. Right before I came here, I actually checked in a guest, so I had to talk to them. Travel nurses, talk to Max over there. He knows a lot about travel nurses. I haven't personally done that, but also a very good strategy. It's kind of they call it midterm rental. rent by the room, that's a big one that I've done in the Tacula house, so we'll go over that. Look for a lot, right, that you can subdivide, build or sell on, build or sell. Storage, so that's one of the things as well that I'm doing is you can rent out storage. There's the Neighbor app, which I use. Bedroom rental, different pieces of property like a shed that you have in the back. People will pay for it. Parking as well. I'll have a picture on there as well. And then Sniff Spot, never used it, but pretty cool. If you have a big backyard, people want their dog to run around. So you charge them $10 an hour, $15 an hour, and you can just play with dogs basically and get paid for it. So
Will they pick up their own poop?
I know.
yeah.
Okay, good question.
Yeah. You know, it depends. Charge an extra $5.
Yeah, extra
maybe.
$5, I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
That's a deal. Win-win.
And then hip camp. Hip camp is pretty cool. One of my friends, everywhere he goes, he uses hip camp. And so yeah, if you have a big yard, you can have people, pitch their tent and you get paid for it. So a lot of different kind of options, for y'all to think about when it comes to house hacking some of them are not like the traditional one that you would think of. All right, what are some of the benefits? So why do we want you guys to house hack? So a few here. The first one is kind of the ability to invest with low money down, right? One of the biggest things you always hear people like, oh, I can't invest in real estate because I don't have enough money because I need 25% down. And that's how I felt when I wanted to go invest in Seattle, right? I was like, if you want to buy a $1 million house, that's $250,000. Like most people don't have that just laying around. Some do, but it's a lot of money. With house hacking, you can go 0% VA, 3.5% FHA, 5%, 10%, whatever you kind of feel comfortable you can do. And so that's a huge benefit. The lower interest rates than traditional investments, so generally about 0.5% lower. Your expenses are paid for by tenants, right? That's kind of the cool thing. Like you have a mortgage, but somebody else pays for it time and time again. Pay less for owning a home than renting. So if you do it right, you can still live where you want to live, but actually pay less than you would have paid for the equivalent in rent, right? So that's like what I'm doing in Ballard right now. Like if I would get the same place, I'd pay like $3,500, $4,000 a month. Instead, I pay like $1,600, So, and I own it. Cash flow and build equity. So appreciation, Seattle has been crazy with appreciation. We're not seeing that probably right now. But the last few years, it's just been bonkers. Appreciation has been huge. And ideally, if you can get a cash flow and appreciation, right, you kind of have that, those two levers working for you. And then you can do it again after a year. If we look at Brad, for example, I think got 3 now? Yeah, so doing it year after year, I mean, you can do it. You don't have to, right? Like some people are like, oh no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to move. You don't have to do it, but it's a possibility. All right, what are some of the drawbacks? So sharing your space with others. I was just talking to some clients 3 days ago, and right away it was a married couple, and she was saying, nope, I do not want to share with anybody. Like I'm scared they're gonna steal my stuff. I'm scared they're gonna destroy everything. So that can be one of the drawbacks, but you can mitigate it, right? You don't have to necessarily in a room rental situation, yeah, you're gonna be kind of right there with them. But you can get a duplex, a triplex, quadplex, or a single family, turn it into a way where you don't share that space necessarily. Like my tenants, when I had 5 people living in my house, I swear I never saw them. Never saw them. I was out a lot too, but landlord responsibility. So that's another one. People are like, what if the toilet breaks? You know, I don't really want to like do that. What if, I don't know, I have to fix the washer or something, right? I'm not very good at fixing things, so for me, that was one of those things as well. But there's also ways you can mitigate it, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then moving. So if you do want to repeat it all the time, people really don't like to move. Moving isn't fun for a lot of people, but again, this isn't something you have to do, but it's something if you want to build fast and you want to grow fast, you're going to have to move a few times. So what do we look for in a great house hack? So a few things here. Separate units, right? That's a traditional one, kind of duplex, fourplex, and so on. Number of bedrooms and bathrooms, so you can do a good room rental. Second kitchens. Ideally it has one. If not, you can put one in. Max was just showing me photos of putting in his kitchen, so pretty cool. Convert the basement into a separate unit. You can have a large lot or DADU, so that's Michael just sent out an email a couple weeks ago about how he did the DADU play. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's really cool. I've watched it like 10 times. So it's very informative. It's a really cool strategy. It works especially in Seattle.
What does DADU stand for?
Detached accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah.
Pop quiz. Here.
Yeah. Let's make it sure.
Light value add. So again, it's something you can, you don't have to do, but for everybody is kind of different. Some people are like, yeah, I want to just fix this whole property, and others are like, no, I just want to move in and be done with it. Lots of parking close to transit. So of course you want to buy a property where people actually want to move to, right? You don't want to be somewhere like way in the middle of nowhere. If you get this super good deal, super cheap house, but nobody wants to live there, then not a good house hack. Healthy rental market. Seattle has always been a very, very healthy rental market and just surrounding areas as well. All right, so real life example. This is my house in the background in Tequila. So how did I acquire it? It was off market. So off market aren't as people think of off market and they're like, oh, I just gotta get a deal off market because that's the only way I get a deal. Not true. You can get lots of deals on market, but this one just happened to be off market by building relationships. So that's another thing why y'all are here, right? You're gonna build relationships with each other, with us as a team. And we look at off market deals. So we try to find y'all off market deals, but don't think like the only way to get a good property is it has to be off market. But this one was off market, purchased for $705. Rehab was about $30K. Current value, this was a little while ago, this might be slightly lower now, but when I looked at comps, it was right around $850. So the equity gain on this one is $145K. That's $30K in sweat equity, right? The work that I put in it, and then $115 in market appreciation. And then as a bonus, this was on a big lot, 13,000 square foot lot. So I looked up what's kind of the minimum requirement or the minimum lot size to subdivide in Tequila, which is 6,500. And so that's a process that I'm working on at the moment. So I always want to kind of look at not just one benefit or like one exit strategy. You try to have multiple ones. So total net worth gain just on this one property, if I was to sell it and sell the lot, would be about $345K. So that's pretty huge on just one property, and we'll talk about kind of like some of the rental numbers in a minute. But just for you, this is not every time this will happen, right? But just for y'all to think about, you don't need, I have lots of friends that have hundreds of doors, even 1,000 doors. And you can do that, but it's not necessary, right? It just depends on your goals. So how did I add value? So it was a 4-bed, 2.5 bath. I turned it into a 6-bed. New paint, new flooring, added a washer and dryer in the upstairs where I was living, did a lot of landscaping, and then furnishing. And so furnishing, you can get, Max again is kind of, and Phil as well, they're like heroes in furnishing on the cheap. They pay nothing and get everything like buy nothing, offer up for free. So you can totally do that. I was doing that in the beginning. Then I had a trip to Germany, and I was like, I can't, I can't do it now. So I had someone, start to buy some stuff on Amazon. But you can be, depending on your budget, right? Like you can be pretty frugal with these things. So it's always like, you either pay money or you pay time, right? So it's going to be one of those, and you can kind of decide where you want to go with it. So some pictures, some visuals here. Yeah, this was the property again off. So now you can kind of tell why it was off market, right? When this was actually on market at first, but people were like, they're like, no, like, we don't want that. It's like, especially when you have grass this high, it does attract rats, and there had loads of rats. Like it was unreal. And so it's like, as an investor, you kind of look at that and you can be like, yep, opportunity, but still it takes some like, getting over it to be like, all right, I'm gonna make this work. But I knew the numbers, I knew kind of this was gonna be a good project, but it was pretty intimidating, honestly. So some pictures from kind of the inside. Lots of ants as well. Like I remember like going in there, and years ago I lived in West Seattle in this super old like apartment building, and there was ants everywhere. I'm like, I swear I never want to be in a place again where the ants, like that'd be in my hair and all that. It was bad. And so I was like, I never want to do this again. And then there we are. Like, yeah, it was again. And yeah, you just kind of, we'll talk about sacrifice a little bit, but that's sometimes you have to have that attitude, which is why I brought the whole mindset thing in, because you can easily go in there and be like, nope, I'm out. And it's also not something y'all have to do. The next place that I got was like, I'm gonna get in something a little bit nicer, right? Like you can kind of step up over time. This was also rough. Every time I walked in the kitchen, like I was starting to clean it, every time there was rat poop on it. It was just gross. So sorry to gross you all out, but I'm just showing you have to kind of sometimes get over these things, and it'll be worth it. So what do? You gather your friends, right? So you bring some of your friends along. I remember my buddy Chris up here. I was like, hey, I have this like new house and this big yard and all this overgrown weeds. Like, can you help me out? And he was like, yep, I got a weed whacker. I got like this hedge trimmer, and so we stood there and literally for 2 hours we were going at it, and we're like, this isn't gonna work. Like this is just too much. But I wanted to try to really like put in the work. One, so I could talk about it, but just two, because I was like, let's just see. Like, let's see what I can do on my own. And then you learn, right? Like, you understand kind of, again, your time, money, like, you kind of value that in different ways. And the doggos, like, were helping out as well. So some of the construction projects, when I was saying we added the other bedroom, extended out the wall, drywall, mud, paint. I wasn't doing that work myself. I got some people there, added the washer and dryer and the plumbing upstairs, and then kind of separated the upper and lower. And then furnished it. As a room rental, you generally want to furnish it. If you do the room rental, and most people that want to rent a room, at least the common areas, they want furnished. The rooms themselves, they're going to bring their own furniture, but for the common areas, you'll likely have to furnish it. So it looks a little bit nicer. The yard and everything, up front, it looks nicer now as well. But these were kind of some older pictures. But we cleaned it up, like new carpet, new paint. This looks way better from what you saw before. Finding tenants, how did I go about that? So first, because I was initially, like, right away I was saying, hey, I want to I want to delegate because I was traveling over the summer, so I got a property manager, and I was like, I'm gonna work with him and have him do some of that work. Worked for a little while, so there was like good and bad, but that's one of the ways, right, if you don't want to do it. So I just want to kind of emphasize this again. A lot of these things you don't have to do. It's just kind of where you feel comfortable, right? There's always kind of another way. Like, you just shouldn't be scared to like not buy a property because like, this is just too much work. You can get a property manager. They can find tenants for you. But if you want to do it on your own, Facebook, Amazon, Craigslist, and by Amazon there's like an internal email, not like you can't like buy tenants on Amazon. And then just become a great interviewer. Like to get the right tenants is gonna be a big asset for you. All right, the house hack that I did by the numbers. So downstairs I had 4 rooms. The total rental income on those was $37.50. I had some car parking. The lot that I had there. At this stage, I have even more cars. So this number is a bit better at this stage. But this was initially when I was living there. So $4,070, all my expenses per month, including exterminator. For the pests, came around almost like $4,200, with an income about $4,070. So roughly about $100 a month to live in a 3,000 square foot home, and I was about 20 minutes from Seattle. Right, so that's like the power of house hacking. Like, imagine you continue doing whatever you do your job, but you pay $100 a month. Like, it's for most, like, your friends are paying like $4,000, $5,000. They're like, yeah, cool, we live in this like high rise, in Capitol Hill. We got the gym, we got the great like movie room and all that. Just go there and enjoy it, right? But like, do your own thing. Like, like, that's what I do. Like, I would just like hang out with them, and I'm like, that's cool. Like, I really enjoy hanging up on the rooftop here. But I'm living for $100 a month, and I own it, right? And all these other things about real estate and the benefits. So this is really why like house hacking is super powerful. And I know we're in a different environment, higher interest rates and all these things, so you might, numbers will always vary. But again, if they're paying like $5,000 and you can even get it down to like $1,000, $2,000, right? Like, you can reduce your mortgage 25, 50, 75%. It's still super worth it, right? Like, I don't know why people wouldn't do it, honestly. The projected kind of post move out, so I did actually move out now. This was back when I was kind of running the numbers of what's going to look like. That's what we usually do when we analyze deals for y'all. We try to just do the analysis based on when you're leaving. So as you can see there, with all the expenses and then renting out all 6 rooms, it's about $900 cash flow. And I actually did a bit better. Like, now, actual numbers on this, like the 2 rooms on the upstairs are like $1,075 each. One of the unit 4 room there was $875. So I actually was able to kind of beat those numbers a little bit, which is super cool. So now you have a property and it's paying you, right? Like, you're actually not doing anything, and that house is paying you money. All right, a couple lessons learned at the end here. So first off, treat it as a business, not a hobby, right? If you start kind of not paying attention to what's going on, you can lose money quickly. So you really have to treat it as a business. Set boundaries and treat everyone as tenants. Right away, like, I'm a very like social person, so I was like, oh yeah, we can hang out, we can talk. I'd be like, nope. No, I really like, you can be friends with all of them, but you have to be kind of careful, because I've had situations where then you become friends and they're like, oh, I don't have the rent this month, like, we're cool, right? Like, we're not cool if you're not paying. So just keep that in mind. Set up systems, right? Always try to systemize as much as you can. There's different ones, different rental management tools and softwares. And then it's often easier than you think and also harder than you think, right? Like when I started, I was like, man, it's gonna be so hard to find tenants, to find people to rent this to. And that's a lot of clients that I work with, they'll be like, I'll never be able to rent it. I literally I posted a couple of rooms, and the first weekend it was like 50 people reached out to me like right away, right? And this wasn't like necessarily in the best location, like it's a good location, but not crazy. So that was a lot easier. But then things get harder too, like the weed whacking, right? Like the trying to mow the lawn there, and I was like, man, we can do this in 2 hours. No, I hired somebody. All right, and last few lessons that I learned from this one. Find the people that have the knowledge and expertise, but trust your instincts. So you have all of us here that you can talk to, right? Doesn't mean we know everything, except Michael, he knows most things.
I've made more mistakes.
But yeah, surround yourself with the people, get the expertise, talk to people that have been through it, but trust your instincts. Like an example for me was, I was working with a property manager on this, like I said in the beginning, and he was telling me, and he's been doing it for 20 years, and he was like, there's no way you can rent this room for $875. I was like, oh man, I really think I can. He's like, no way. And then next thing he was like, you can't put in quiet hours in your lease. You'll never find anyone that's gonna wanna live with you. I was like, I'm living here and I have a job and I wanna I don't want people that just party all night long while I'm here. But there was all these kind of like pushback, and I was like, man, the guy's doing it for 20 years. He probably knows what he's talking about. But at the end of the day, I was like, he's not living here, right? I'm living here. So I'm gonna follow my gut and my instincts, and we split. But it worked out. I mean, I was able to, as y'all saw, I was able to do it. So, do what you're good at and delegate the rest. I kind of like this picture up here. Like I said, I'm not good at fixing things, at putting up things, at design. Ann over there has helped me with some design already, so she knows. So find people that are good at these things and have them do it, even if you have to pay for them. So this one is funny because as he was working on that, I was actually like closing a deal for Phil. So right, I could have spent 3 hours like working on putting that up, and I would have hated it. Or I can hire somebody for like $40 an hour and do it, right? So keep always kind of thinking about that mindset. The only person you should compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. I think I heard on a TED Talk or something, but it's true. I'm a lot of investor circles and stuff like that, and like I was saying, those people have thousands of units, right? Or they're doing all these things, and you can get like pretty quickly discouraged, and you can be like, oh man, like am I really like doing enough? It doesn't matter what the other people are doing, right? Like, do you? So if you get your first property at, I don't know, at 40, like if you start this at 40, like great, like you gotta, start somewhere. Just because there's like, we have like Brad and Dan, and it's like, man, they're like early 20s and they're already starting it, right? Like, that doesn't mean like you're like too late to the game or something, right? Or just because somebody has 1,000 units, like it doesn't mean you're just way behind. Like you all have different lives, all different paths. So just compare yourself to yourself. And then the last one, make sacrifice to succeed. So just a quick story and then I'll wrap it up. This picture down here, anyone kind of see what's unusual about it?
There's a bed against the wall.
Yes, exactly. There's a bed right here. So last year, I was at an Airbnb in Palm Springs, and this lady, she was 47 years old, an immigrant from Nigeria, divorced with 2 kids. And so her whole goal was to get her kids like the best education possible, right? She was like, there's all these like white kids in the school that's like, they're never gonna like let my kids in, like, and they think I don't have the money and whatever. And she was like, no, I'm gonna do whatever it takes, like whatever it takes to make this work. So she had her bed right here in the living room so that her kids could have the downstairs like bedroom 1 and bedroom 2, and the upstairs had 3 bedrooms, and that she Airbnb'd them all. And she's done this 7 times. So she had 7 houses in California, bringing in easily like 10K net a month. Like, she was doing very well, but she continued, right? So she was making good money. She's 47 years old with kids, and she's continuing to sacrifice, right, for her kind of mission to put them through school and give them the best education possible. So think about that, like, how many people would do that kind of in that situation? And so I think really to make things work, you know, you're gonna have to put in some sacrifice, but it's well worth it in the end. And then this is it. I just leave you. I love quotes, so I'll leave you with a quote. Whatever you can do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it.
That's great.
And that's it. Woo! All right.
Yeah, just real quick, does anyone have any questions for Marty?
Or Michael. You know Michael.
No?
All good? Yeah, go ahead.
Whatever happened to your 2 units out of state?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the one I'm actually in the process of selling. So it's actually 6 units. It's a 4-plex and a duplex. And I'm trying to sell the duplex. The 4-plex is still doing well. I still have it. I'm still gonna hang on to it. Go ahead.
You know that house that you were mowing the lawn in and everything? How long
Yeah.
did it take you to renovate that to get it ready?
Yeah, it took me. So again, I was I actually had a month basically between like my rental lease ended, and I had a plane booked to go back home to Germany. So I had about a month to do it. So the majority of the work got done within a month. When I came back, then I did some more of the like furnishing, a little bit of the painting and stuff. And I really honestly like hustled on it like a lot. Like I would work at Amazon, and then I would come home, and if my friends weren't available, which, you know, they're like, yeah, we'll do it on the weekend with like pizza and beer. But you know, during the day, I was there on my own, and so I would go. And sometimes till like 1 in the morning or something, I'd paint. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the house you're showing, you rent out multiple rooms. How long do tenants usually sign like a lease for? Do you do like a lease agreement with them for month to month, or do you do 6 months, a year? How do you do that?
Yeah, good question. So while I was staying there initially, I did like month to month just for my own kind of, I want to be like, what if this doesn't work, right? Like, what if you just don't vibe, even though I was like, I guess I was saying I was pretty separated. But initially I did months to months or like a 6 months. I did a short one. Now where I'm not there, I'm doing 12 months.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
Why did you pick Buffalo investment property?
That's a very valid question. So when I moved here, I moved to Buffalo. So I actually grew up, I've been longer in Seattle now. I've been here 10 years, and I was 8 years in Buffalo. So I knew the area. And yeah, I went on like bigger pockets, and I was like, hey, like anybody in Buffalo that can help me, and that's why I picked it. Yep.
So on the house hack, room rental, I see you said you had a property manager who had like 20 years experience,
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of told you what he thought the market cap was.
Yep.
And you said you had a gut feeling or a hunch that you could get more.
Yep.
Did you have some? What do you use to get your data? Or do you have some kind of metric, especially when you're doing furnished? You could probably determine like what you could rent a room for based on what every other area is renting for. But how do you tack on the furniture on top of that? Utilities, like do you say 20% on top of what I think the median rent is in this area?
Yeah.
I'm gonna charge for furniture and utilities.
Right.
How do you come up with your 875 number?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I look at furnish finders. I look at Craigslist, room rentals. I look at different kind of sites that do the room rentals in the area, and then look at their condition. You know, some of them are like for like $700, but then they don't have a new carpet, right? They don't have new paint. So then I'll tag on like 10 to 20%, just depending on, you know, how I see. If I look at 4 rooms that are not in great condition, a couple that are in really good condition, look at that price difference. And then, you know, it's not a perfect science, right? You put out a number, and then you'll see, right? Like you'll see if it's too high, they're not gonna jump on it. If it's too low, you're gonna get flooded, right? So you find that balance, and you can kind of adjust. Yep.
You said you went month to month to start in case you didn't like or didn't vibe with one of the tenants or something was not working out. I guess I'm curious, how did you write that into your lease so that if you weren't working out, how could you get them out of the house without some sort of like eviction or something like that? Do you see what I'm saying? Like you can't, just because you're month to month, they still have the right to continue to pay month to month, to my understanding.
Yeah.
Unless you occupy that evening.
Yeah. No, it's true. Honestly, it was just, we would do a month-to-month lease, like, and then we would just talk about it. I would basically say, hey, just, are you cool with, like, if this doesn't work out, you know, you'll still get, like, I'll just give you 30-day notice, and you'd be happy, you'd be okay to, like, leave. And they'd be like, yeah. I mean, I'd know one that was, because even for them, it was like, yeah, I don't mind it. Like, you know, because they didn't know, like, they haven't moved in yet either. And so they're like, yeah,
Sure.
we can try it. So it's kind of a verbal agreement, and then.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, it
Like
could.
at the end of the day, there's nothing in your lease that says like, if I don't like you, you leave.
No, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Can I add something? So Seattle, if you live in the house, you can ask them to buy law. Legally, if you live in the house, you can ask them to leave on a month-to-month lease. If it's a longer-term lease, then you can't.
But if it's a month to month.
It's a month-to-month, you can have them leave.
Isn't that when you do own your occupation of the room though? So you would have to say
No, if you
give a
own the
reason.
house, if you're sharing a room in your house or a mother-in-law,
Yeah.
it only applies in that case. If it's duplex, it doesn't apply. You can't ask them to leave.
Good to know. Thanks. Yeah, good to know.
I did this because I had to evict somebody. So.
Okay.
How can I like? Oh yes, I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
I live in an apartment right now, and people are like constantly, you know, complaining about each other. How has your experience been with landlording people that even live closer than apartment living? I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah, so there's a drawback to the room rental is definitely. Is back up one step. I took this like master class course like before I did it, and I met somebody who had like a lot of experience with the room rental, and he would tell me, try to avoid getting. I was like, hey, I have a bunch of people that a couple that wanna rent a room, right? And he's like, try to avoid getting too many different personalities into it, right? Because then it goes crazy. So I stuck with that kind of belief, and I really try to get people together where I'm like, hey, you know, they're like young professionals that kind of work in similar interests. Didn't always work. I definitely had somebody where if you can get one person that can just cause a bunch of headaches for you. So I did have that, but generally I just try to do that, like really to the point of being a good interviewer kind of thing. Try to get like almost like building a team down there so that people get along. But yeah, it can be room rentals are more headaches that way. Yeah. But
that interviewing process is probably the most important, where you kind of feel them out and see if they're going to be a good fit.
Yeah, that was huge. And then I would tell people like, so this, you know, we have a person working for the airline, you know, young 20s, like living here, you know, it's like, and I would also say to people, I would run this questionnaire by them, just to get an idea of like, what do they like to do? Like, what are your hobbies, right? And like, if someone is like, I'm just like to stay in and like smoke weed all night long or all day long, and I have all these other people who are like super active or something, right? Like, you know, maybe like, this isn't a good fit. So try that.